game or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, this weekend they're heading out.
Yeah, yes. So, obviously, I spend my time getting the cards done, getting them ready. Hopefully, we get a little bit more word out. 2 weeks from today, I'm planning to do the neighborhood. We'll talk about neighborhood ready program. We've got some videos and just go. So if you were to get your neighborhood together, how would it go? I'm still trying to figure out how to incorporate, because the church has a program called the Rapid Ready Response Program. I think close to that. It's more than I want. It's, to be honest, I look at it and like, wow, that's a little overwhelming. It's like, here's all these forms, and here, yeah, I'm like, okay, these forms are cool, good information, but it was, talking about, everything. And I'm still trying to pick a few things out that we might be able to cover, and then say, and then there's the rest of the program. Because, as we know, if we get our neighbors together, they're probably not going to want to go full in depth into everything. The leaders of their wards can get together and pass along their, information and get all of the things that they want. And we would encourage that, but for us, you gotta get something that's fun and easy for the whole neighborhood to say, how to get started. So the back of that card is where that starts. Maybe we'll be going over the program that they do is the 9-step program. I took the first 7.
Sounds like recovery.
My name's Roseanne, and I'm recovering.
Might be, huh?
I'm a recovery prepper.
No, you're not.
By the way,
You're full blown.
I'm a recovery hoarder.
Raging addict.
we got some cool things done.
That is
Hopefully
cool.
You guys saw those on because I'm like, he wasn't going to do knives, but he ended up doing one. Did you? Oh, you haven't seen it because you're not in our group. So that's her knife.
Oh, yeah, she showed me that.
And then
Yeah, it's way cool.
I think if you slide, that's what I did.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Hope you had fun. Had fun throwing some axes and things like that. So it was good. We had a decent group there. I mean, 13, I think 13 of us.
I was thinking about this, and when you were talking about the neighbors, so Roseanne and I were just talking because she teaches some things.
I've taught it for here already.
We've already got it recorded on the.
Yeah.
No, we've already got it recorded on my phone.
We can have a whole session, just one night on plumbing, because we are, that kind of a thing. Or I see you've got power and lights.
We were talking about plumbing test kits for the backflow preventers and the sewers, how to stop sewer smell, sewer gas from coming into your home if we're grid down. That's what we're talking about. So I'm writing notes.
I would like to
Plumbing
know
and gas.
exactly how to find those ones, because they say that not every one, you can't just put a ball down there.
It's not one size
You
fits all.
gotta find the one that fits your ready.
Yeah.
Okay, but
They're
so
expensive.
that's what brought it up is because I had a guy come over, he and his wife, to get a sourdough started. But anyway, so I said, hey, will you help me get the size on my shower drain? Because he's building his own house. So he came in and looked at it, and the way it was covered, I didn't want to unscrew the plate cover because it's quite nicely done. So anyway, we estimated, and he said, now why do you want to do this? And so when we really got down to if the plumbing isn't going to work, and how do you stop your toilet so that you can use it even though the plumbing won't work. And so he thought, well, now why would that happen? Okay, maybe an earthquake, maybe it goes. So anyway, when we really were getting down to it, we went outside. He said, your street's on a slope. He said, how far up do you think those houses are feet-wise? And I said, maybe 50 feet. So
That's a lot of pressure.
And then down, yeah.
Their sewer coming down at you 50 feet.
And so then it goes down another 50 or so feet. And he's saying, I don't know, I can't remember all the math, but something about it incrementally goes, but he said, those floods are only good for 5 foot pressure. He said, you put flooding like that, and it'll blow.
Yeah,
But it will keep the
Okay.
sewer smell if they're,
I should know this, how many PSI for 10 feet?
Well, as long as
he
you
needs to
put
teach
yours
the
in,
class right
as
there.
long as you put yours in, then the neighbors will release the pressure.
Yeah,
It's only 0.4 PSI per foot, so 4 PSI for 10 feet, and you're already basically there for your 5 PSI test plug from Lowe's. However, you can talk to your I'm sorry, I've been stuck with tech, but I've been listening. You can request a automatic clamshell installed. I don't know what it costs. I haven't got around to doing it myself yet, but they make them, they install them, they sell them, and if the flow changes direction, it goes poof, and closes, and the higher the pressure, the tighter it closes.
And a plumber puts that in, did you?
You, depending on where in the line it gets put, you might be able to do it yourself, or a plumber might have to do it approved by the city if it's beyond a certain point from where your home ties in. So
But you couldn't have it just at your outside of your home.
I don't see why not.
And
Your
it's called
property,
an automatic clamshell.
So
backflow,
it's a
sewage backflow preventer.
yeah.
Yeah, but
It'd
those
just
are
be a
thousands
it'd just be a
of
one-way valve.
Huh?
If you put one of those in at the street, that's $1,000. You'll have to dig down.
Well, I don't know if you can put it in at the street
I would put it in near your home.
unless it was put in.
Where would you put it, where would you put one of these in your home anyway?
You have to be where it comes out.
You would find your access. You've got a pipe somewhere,
Clean out.
hopefully a clean out. Put it in.
It's probably under the house,
Before you're-
isn't it?
No,
No,
you have a clean out outside your house.
Oh, just your normal, okay, just that.
So like-
Okay.
Cause I was on a septic system for a lot of years,
Mhm.
then they came and so my septic system goes out the back of my house, so I've got to clean out, so when they came and put the sewer in, I've got to clean out right where we divided from the septic to go, and so it goes out around, and then in my front yard, I've got a second clean out, so that would actually be my best place is to go in front of that second clean out, because I'd want it in front of that, because if I went behind it, it's gonna come up out through the clean out,
you want it
so I want it,
before your first clean out.
yeah.
If
Between
we're
your house
referring
and
to
your
Between the clean out and the road, or
Yeah.
between the clean out and my house?
coming
Clean
from
out
the road,
Clean out the
you
road.
want to isolate yourself from the system.
Yep.
So you want it coming from your home towards the street after the last clean out.
You'd be down to.
Mine too.
Yeah.
It's
That'd be
way
big.
down.
That'd be a big.
It's a major project.
Major.
Yep.
So is there
So
any,
is cleaning sewage out of your home.
Oh.
See, I mean, people aren't gonna wanna tackle that.
Somewhat. I feel lucky because I'm still in septic, so it's only my own,
yeah, you won't have to worry about that.
and we're a walkout basement, so our sewer is, septic is just feet down
So
from
is
my basement.
is there another
don't need to.
option, like?
For
I don't
septic,
need it for pressure.
you don't need it.
I
No,
don't
I'm
need
talking
one.
for those on,
Oh, you have everyone above you.
for the rest of us in the city,
And they're looped, the
Without having
systems are
to-
looped.
put that whole thing in, that sounds like a pretty major investment there.
So the inflatable bladders, I don't know how much pressure they can handle, but they're like $20 at Ace Hardware
That's when you just stick in your pipe and
inflate it.
inflate it.
Where-
Yeah.
Where would you put it in your pipe? Because I,
Yeah, I would shove it in
That's probably that clean out,
the last clean out.
before the street.
so actually
So
should.
you probably,
Because the cleanouts are like this big, aren't they?
the 4 inch.
For
Right.
Well, how far down would you have to put it to keep the streets?
Well, you have to go clear down, so your clean out. So here's your sewer pipe, and well, it depends on your house. So mine is probably close to 10 feet, because I've got a basement, and then but it goes, I would probably be pretty safe, because I don't have very many people above me. I mean, so,
So would you put that thing down, how far down?
well, so you have to go clear down so it sits down into the sewer pipe. You just have to push it down the clean out as far as it go, and then you inflate it. And I think they inflate with water.
Correct.
And then you
And
take it out when plumbing comes back on, so don't put it in unless you really know you're not gonna.
And then you have, well, then you got the other problem is you gotta have flowing water to be able to inflate it. So if you got,
Pressurized water.
yes.
you could rig up a fitting to do a bicycle pump. You could rig up a Schrader valve on it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you actually can, because if it's a pipe fitting, well, if it's a hose fitting, you can get the little Schrader valve for camper trailers and stuff that are blowouts. It just screws in there.
One fitting, done.
Yeah, but then you gotta have a air hose long enough to get all the way down there too.
Okay,
All right.
Sounds like I need to hop on the topic, design one.
and
We'd
then
love
teach us,
to
yeah,
learn more about that, for sure.
because we were just talking about sewer gas and that can make you sick.
Yeah.
Not a good thing to have in your own.
Those plumber's bladders are good for 184 feet over wherever you put them. So they're rated to 80 PSI of water. So if there's,
Pounds per square inch. So
I'm on slab, so mine probably won't go down too deep.
and then however high,
Well,
The neighbors
and I like
are.
the clamshell option, because to be honest, in that situation, would you be able to put it in before
No.
you actually?
you would pray that you suspected, because when the power goes out, and it's been out for Cache Valley, last I heard, would go, Salt Lake would go 3 days, Cache Valley would go a week before everything started
I
shutting
asked
down.
Mendon and they said about 3 days they would not be able to give us pressurized water. We're just a tiny town.
Right.
3 days.
So Logan might make it 7. So you got a 7-day heads up to consider isolating yourself. Maybe.
But, for example, my house, just this last spring, we had, they diverted water into the storm drain up from
Oh, yeah.
East Smithfield. Didn't tell anybody, they're like, oh, just put it in the storm drain, we'll
And
just go in.
Just came out
And
up
it came
the,
all the way down, and all of my neighbors got sewage that come up. Luckily, we didn't, and I don't know why ours is different than theirs, but we had probably 5 or 6 neighbors that all had it, and cities, like,
Where did it come up?
basically the city
It's
ended
their
up saying they will pay only for the cleanup,
Oh, my word.
not for fixing that back.
Maybe you
So
already
maybe-
have a one-way valve now.
Bentley, how much did
Huh?
you say the?
Maybe you already
test
have a
plug-
one-way
Oh.
valve.
That's true, maybe I do.
The test
That'd be
plug for
interesting.
the house?
I doubt that we built a house that you do, but it was a build your own house, so it's possible
Well, I thought
somebody
it was
like
really
it bought
expensive
that,
when I counted all my
but.
drinks.
I doubt.
Probably not.
All right, we ready?
Just
Bentley, do you
sewer
want
gas.
to
I just
intro?
want sewer gas, not,
What do we do?
Oh,
to make it
can we not fix that yet? Sorry.
And right now, I'm chasing it all the time, trying to put enough water down showers and toilets and sinks. I have a big house.
Okay, you want to go?
And with only my husband and I living there, we don't get around to everything. For shower, for sink.
Consider, because toilets have the water there. Every other.
You still want the way where you can see part of it here, and did that help you?
Doesn't matter. The ball of clay.
It didn't help you? Okay, then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna extend this so that both of them are on the same screen. It's actually easier for to do.
You're just keeping it from
Seeping in. And we talked about like when we do the dry toilets for the sanitation stuff. You didn't come to my class, right?
No, but I've been in mine in the garage,
And then-
and the young men came over for an activity, no one knew. No one knows. They were right next to it, and it's like,
What did they not know?
that I was dry
Dry toilet.
compost pooping in the garage, and
You gotta
I
practice.
posted young men's activities.
Nobody
No
said,
one
"It
knows.
stinks in here."
It doesn't smell like anything. There's zero odor.
Do you
I
put sawdust, kitty litter?
sawdust. There you go. I got from you in a pinch because I really wanted to practice. I told Pastor Joe if I could preparedness, I would do it. So I did
I
it.
told people, okay, I have so many barrels, I'll sell my barrels, which I bought for $20. I'll sell my barrels for $20, and they'll be full of sawdust. Just come get them.
Get them full of, yep. And I'll replace all your barrels, Roseanne. I will get you barrels. No one online gets to hear that.
It makes me happy that people are actually practicing. I've got some girls who've already called me and said, I bought my funnel.
Me too. I'm giving it tonight to her granddaughter for Christmas too.
Yeah.
I ordered them on Amazon. Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Cache Valley Ready for part 2 of Introduction to First Aid. Our presenter tonight is Terry Miles, who happens to be my mother. I have already introduced her in part 1, but I'm going to read her introduction again for those of you who are joining us for the first time. Terry Miles graduated with an associate degree in nursing from BYU in 1982, thus fulfilling a lifelong dream that started with the children's book, Nurse Nancy. She worked as a registered nurse in home health and in various departments at various hospitals until 1988, when she quit working as a nurse in order to be a better mom. However, she maintained her nursing license through continuing education, the continuing education program, until 2019. She has made herself available 24/7 and has taken many a call in the wee hours to help family and friends with medical questions at all hours of the day or night. And let me practice removing stitches off her neck and stuff. So please give a warm welcome to Terry Miles.
Okay. So we're going to pick up where we left off at the last class. We're going to talk about heat and cold. Your body obviously likes to be at a certain temperature, and it can generally maintain it 98.6. And even when you feel cold on the outside or feel flushed from heat, generally that's just your exterior, just your skin, and your interior, your core temperature is still the same. When your body can no longer maintain that, you're in trouble, okay? Let's see.
How about when your feet get cold?
Your core is still warm, even when your feet are cold. Your extremities will cool off first because there's so much more exposure or surface area. And obviously that is where you're going to get like frostbite first. Your fingertips, the tips of your earlobes, the tops of your ears, your toes, always those are the most vulnerable. So we'll start out by talking about hypothermia. Obviously, that's when your body temperature starts to get below where it should be. What can you do? How can you prevent hypothermia, or how can you recognize it? What do you guys know about hypothermia, Roseanne?
You have to be quite hydrated.
Okay.
Your body core needs to keep your thermostat regulated by drinking a lot of water. If you're dehydrated, you get hypothermia
faster. Okay, you get hypothermia faster when you are dehydrated. Why do you think that is? Well, okay, your circulation that goes through your body is a liquid, okay? When you are dehydrated, you have a lower blood volume, okay? Also, anything like you put something, a cube of ice on the counter that's this big to melt, how long does that take to melt compared to a block this big? Okay, it's way faster. So when the bigger you are, the more mass you are, the warmer you are. Big people stay warm better than babies. okay? So having volume within, even though if it's just liquid water in you, helps. Now, obviously, if you're gonna drink ice water or hot cocoa, that is gonna affect the temperature, you know, whether you're taking in cold or warm liquid. But if you're already hydrated, you're gonna be better off than if you're dehydrated, okay? So obviously, mild hypothermia isn't a problem when you're shivering or whatever. You're fine. Just, you know, get into a good place and you'll be fine. But if it is not, if you let it get out of hand, it can be definitely life-threatening. So hypothermia can be made worse much quicker when you're wet, which would be caused by rain, or like if you broke through the ice in the pond or whatever like that, and you're wet. Then when the wind blows, obviously that cools you off some more. The dehydration, like Roseanne said, hunger and exhaustion. Why do you think that affects hypothermia?
Calories and calories.
Okay, yep. So when you're kind of like a fire, you're a little heater, and you feed yourself, your body burns that and creates heat, okay? So when you have like hiked the mountain and you are exhausted, you have expended those calories, you've burned up what energy resources that you have, some of them, obviously your body will continue to burn what it's got, but then once it's burned the easy stuff, it starts burning the harder stuff, and it starts using up muscle mass, and your body can only handle so much. So any questions on this topic, this slide?
I'm just curious about hypothermia.
Okay.
I've heard of stories where people go into like freezing cold water and go in there, come out, and they're fine.
But for how long?
You want to
Like
hear
an hour.
You want to hear my personal experience?
I'm curious if there's something else that
I really want it. So this probably won't answer your question, but I would love to do a training, because I did one last winter where we went out to a pond on someone's property, got a fire going, had soup, had everything ready, and then went, cut a hole in the ice and jumped in fully dressed and hung out in there, and then climbed out and did nothing but start moving while stripping layers off, wringing them out, putting them back on, and jogging around the pond. And I probably shivered for 4 minutes tops. Dried off, it was good to go. It was amazing how easy it was not to go hypothermic. So
How long did you spend in the water?
Some people longer than others, most under 10 minutes.
How about you? 10 minutes, not 10 seconds.
Minutes.
How about you?
I regularly do 15 minutes.
I'm just wondering if
It was
there.
28 degrees.
What?
I mean, you hear these people that want to do ice baths for,
I don't.
you know.
It was.
and I'm like,
It was. Oh yeah. It
How are
was 28
they-
degrees, the water temperature that night. So
The air temperature was 20.
yeah. So it was no picnic, but with a tiny bit of training, it's super manageable.
Yeah.
Anyway, as long as you have calories.
Right.
Well, maybe that's might be another point, is they get a lot of calories as well to get that. But I know my wife and me, it's like I can be super cold. Like my hands can almost be freezing. I won't be cold. My core is warm.
Yeah.
But she can be cold.
When it's 72 degrees
Yeah.
outside.
Okay, I
think so.
think that what you're talking about is a difference that is in general between men and women.
Yeah.
women have a fat layer more than men over every part of their body, and so it insulates their skin from the core, and so their skin gets cold, even though their core is probably staying warmer. They feel cold on the outside, and so women tend to run cold or feel cold, need more heat, need more their jacket quicker and stuff than men in general.
And how about the aging process? How does it affect older people?
Generally, you lose your fat layers as you get old. You know, you get skinny and bony and whatnot. Fat is a very good insulator.
Baseline line metabolism goes down,
Yeah,
brown fat goes down. And those are key players.
okay. So, okay. What are some signs of hypothermia?
You've stopped shivering.
Okay. When it gets really bad, you stop shivering. Okay.
Drowsy, you want to sleep.
Confusion and incoordination.
Lack of dexterity.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. I found this really interesting, and this is something I don't understand. This is new to me, and that is the difference between adults and babies, infants. Adults tend to turn blue, but infants tend to be bright red when they are cold, when they're getting hypothermia. I can't explain that one. Can you? You've got medical.
That one that's a new one to me.
Okay, so maybe this isn't even true.
No, I have come across that.
That's,
The
I
not
read,
shivering
I
and the
studied,
color.
this came from a good source, and then I just used this slide, so I believe it, but I can't tell you how. But the low energy, obviously the baby's getting sleepy, adults do the same thing, drowsy, slurred speech, they're starting to just shut down, okay? If you are getting problems with hypothermia, you need to get yourself in a safe place because you're not going to be able to think, okay? The longer it goes, the worse your brain is going to work. And so you need to do what you can as soon as you recognize it happening before you lose your brain and then you do stupid stuff. I knew of some kids that got stuck in a little shelter in the snow, and when one of them started getting hypothermic, he went out in the snow in his bare feet and wandered off, thinking he was gonna go get help or whatever. But I mean, at least put your shoes on, you know. Obviously his brain function was no longer working well at that point. Okay, so what do we do about it? Generally, we're going to be talking about how you help somebody else. Okay, hopefully when you need it, there's somebody that's not as brain dead as you are at that moment that can help you. Sorry. Okay, so what?
I think
do you
that's
do?
saying don't take a warm shower.
Okay, warm shower is not necessarily the same, but it could possibly be, okay? Let me go on to the next slide and then we'll come back to this one. Okay, slide, I don't know how far down it is. See this one? Maybe not. Okay, never mind, it's there somewhere. Bentley, can you come get me back where I belong?
Yep.
So,
You're not in the shot. Come back in the camera.
you have a contained system that holds your blood, okay? It's got tubes, which are your blood vessels and your heart, and it's kind of like a balloon in that it expands and contracts, okay? If your container gets twice as big, but you only have half as much blood, it's only going to be half full, okay? And your head is at the top usually. That's why you lay people down and put their feet up when they are in shock, is to try to get what little blood volume they have to be in their head, okay? So if you put somebody in hot water when they're hypothermic, it can expand their entire circulatory system, and there may not, even with them laying down, there may not be enough blood for their heart to pump and for their head to have blood.
Blood to maintain pressure at the new vascular system volume.
Yes.
The blood volume hasn't changed. They've got enough blood, but the pressure dropped.
The
right?
pressure dropped.
Right.
And it's just this, it's like running out on the ground almost. I mean, it isn't, but your container is messed up.
Like you said, the container changes size. The volume stays the same, but the container changes size, and that's why you have that shock system.
Yeah. So you will really want to be careful not to heat them up too fast. And without immersing them in hot water, it's almost impossible to do it too fast. Okay. So get wet clothing off. Like Bentley said, when they did the thing in the pond, they just wrung their wet clothes on and out and put them back on. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but the more water you've got on the outside of you, the more it takes to heat it up. But if you're in warm water and your body's heated it up, you can, especially if you're out of the wind, it can be warming. You can drink warm beverages, warm water, or hot chocolate, coffee, whatever. Obviously, get wrapped up. In this picture, it's showing this kid being hugged. You definitely can use other people's body temperature to warm you up. I thought I had more pictures. I actually liked it when I could see what was coming next. Now I have no clue what's coming. So anyway, jump in the sleeping bag with them or hug them. Get to play Oreos or whatever, where you sandwich people together. And get out of the wind and the weather and get to as warm a place as you can. The smaller the size space they're in, the more you can heat it up with your own body. So if you get in a car or in a tent or in a sleeping bag or even a smaller room, like if y'all, let's say you're in your house and there's no heat, if y'all sleep in one bedroom or go in the bathroom, the smaller the space, the more your body heat can make a difference. Okay, frostbite is when your body fluid basically turns to ice crystals. Okay, and we already talked about how the exposed ends of things with more surface area are what's going to be freeze first. I included, can you see these pictures very well? Do you want to turn off the lights? You can do that. I wanted you to see what it looks like in the early and in the late stage and in the medium. So you will recognize it. But this does not look like just a sunburn or like, they're just red, right? Can you tell it's
Special kind of red.
a special kind of red, a little bit swollen looking and whatnot, and then it progresses. And I was kind of surprised to find that cheekbones tend to get frostbite on them as well. The longer they continue to be cold, the deeper it goes into the flesh, deeper and deeper layers. Eventually, blood circulation can be stopped because of the circulation in that area. The vascular structure in that area is frozen, and you can get gangrene.
So the guy with black on his face, is that gangrene?
Yes.
The black is gangrene?
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't think that frostbite turns black until, I mean, frozen meat doesn't turn black, right? So I'm pretty sure that's gangrene. You're a medical guy. What do you think?
I've never witnessed gangrene. It's definitely gotta be tissue death though, that's there and.
And it
So-
stinks to high heaven. The smell is putrid. It's horrid. Okay, the person with frostbite may not even know at that point. I mean, they knew they were cold before, but when it gets numb and it no longer hurts or anything, then that's also a sign that it may have progressed really terribly, really far. When there's grayish white patches or blisters, that's a sign of frostbite. I mostly wanted you to just see the pictures so you would recognize. I tried to throw in all the full range so you could see pretty much everything that is that you're likely to see. You don't have to wait until you know it's frostbite, obviously. You can treat it way quicker by trying to get warm. And if you can put up the whole body of a person that's struggling in something warm, that's good. But you can also just take a hand and put your hands in your armpits, or put them between your legs, or put them in, their hands between your legs. Wrap it up, put, pillows over and under a hand or a foot or whatever. And then try to get medical treatment as soon as you can.
When they warm back up, isn't it really painful?
Yeah. Yep. And I honestly have not experienced it, but that's what they say.
Yeah.
I've never had frostbite, but I've warmed up from really cold and it hurts like the dickens.
Yeah, it does.
So in this, I researched why you're not supposed to warm them up if there's the chance that they could refreeze. And I get that that's kind of wasted effort or whatever, but apparently it's a really bad thing. Do you know why?
I'm trying to remember, it's been too many years, but yes, it's partly because the amount of energy that it takes out of their body to be warm, and then if it refreezes,
You're sucking their
yeah,
strength.
gosh, I wish I could remember how it goes, but yeah, that is not something you want to do, because frostbite and hypothermia in particular is that you can put them into a shock that can kill them. Not so
Okay.
much from frostbite, but more in the hypothermic. So, yeah.
Okay. I
Don't
could
rub
not.
frostbite.
I looked and it just kept saying over and over, never do it, never do it, never do it. I'm going, why? I have to know the why, otherwise I can't remember some of the rules. You've seen things like lettuce, that when they freeze, the cell walls burst and it gets slimy. And I believe that's partly why they show wrapping between the fingers and stuff, is because if your cell walls start breaking down, they start to leak, and then stuff gets stuck together with serum and whatnot. Because as far as warmth goes, it would be better, just like with a mitten, to have your fingers all together than to have them wrapped separately. But we're assuming here at this point that you've warmed people up, and when you wrap it with bandage, you're going to go between the fingers or the toes or whatever. Any questions or comments on this?
Just wondering about that 100 to 105 degree. It seems pretty hot. That's what my hot
You're-
tub is.
Okay, body temperature is 98.6, which
Yeah,
is
that's true.
almost 99. So we're talking a difference of 6.
Degrees max.
Yeah.
Hot tubs are like between 102 and 110. And I think they're miserable.
Are they really
I
that?
hate hot tubs.
Too hot or?
Too hot. I take
Yeah.
tepid showers. I just hate hot water.
So, I mean, it should feel warm to you. And if, like, for example, if you're out in the cold and your hands are freezing, warm water is going to feel much hotter. And so you can use your face. Usually your face is not as cold, or the back of your arm and elbow, whatever, something that is not on your extremities to check the water temperature. Especially your lips are good at checking temperatures. But the point here is warm water, okay, hot water, not okay. So why is it okay to put a hand in warm water, but not a body in warm water? And I think we kind of already covered that. You're going to end up expanding the circulatory system and end up without enough blood to fill it, to keep it full, to keep the blood pressure up. Okay, dehydration. So obviously you need fluids, you need to be hydrated, and not being hydrated affects both hypothermia and heat stroke and whatnot. So hot and cold is affected with dehydration. We get dehydrated by breathing and by sweating and by going to the bathroom. So we're always losing liquids, okay? And we always have to keep replacing them. And so if you aren't a regular water drinker, you're probably dehydrated most of the time. So how can you tell? What do you feel like? What does it look like when you're dehydrated?
And your skin won't bounce back after just a few.
Okay, you make a dent and it doesn't pop back up.
The other one's tenting. A
Okay.
really good one is tented skin
yeah.
doesn't rebound quickly in dehydrated people.
Okay,
Headaches.
and old people, it gets slower and slower too.
Yeah, they're all dehydrated.
Hey, I'm old, watch out.
Okay, usually your lips are dry, your mouth is dry. Your urine can be dark yellow usually. So if you see that, it also makes you tired. So these are signs of mild dehydration. As it gets worse, you quit making urine, or it gets really dark brown. You can get muscle cramps, especially in your calves, but they can be anywhere. You can get dizzy, confused. Basically, most of the symptoms that we've talked about with shock, because you are lacking volume to get the blood back into your head.
Would you also put not sweating in conditions where they could warm
Yep,
up the conditions?
Decreased for
That-
lack of
Oh,
sweating.
there we go.
That is
I didn't-
definitely, does it say that?
Yep, it does. You got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And when you quit sweating, you're in big trouble. Okay, so the first, how to treat it, drink. If you've been sweating a lot, sports drinks or ones with a little bit of sodium help to give you some electrolytes back. If you have gotten dehydrated to the point of being really tired, it does help to rest. And most people who get really dehydrated do need some rest and to be pulled off the soccer team or whatever and not play the rest of the game if you're to that point. Oh. What I do?
There's one thing on those sports drinks is that if you drink a quart of sports drink, you should probably have drank close to 2 quarts of water, because the sports drinks some people just be drinking those and not drink water,
Mm,
and they have so much concentrated stuff in them that it can make you sick.
right, right. Okay, so it's kind of almost like you're diabetic or whatever, where it just builds up all those electrolytes in your system, and your body has to have a balance. It's got very specific ranges of what's acceptable, and you've got to pee out that extra stuff. And if everything you're drinking has electrolytes in it, you're going to be adding way more than you can be getting rid of, and that's not a good thing. So, this one always, how did that change by itself? Are you, no? Okay. This one always bugs me just a little bit, and it probably shouldn't, but it is hard to rehydrate somebody after they're to the point where when they drink water, they throw up. Okay, it's really hard to get them rehydrated, but you can, and sometimes you can be successful to sip a tiny bit of water or an energy drink or a whatever drink, sip a little bit and get rehydrated without an IV, but it is much safer and much easier to just get an IV. Okay.
I've been there before. You can't possibly drink enough.
Tell them about your dehydration, and I'm going to get some more water.
I don't remember a ton, except I was sick and puking, and
How much did they give you in the hospital?
3 liters, and they still couldn't measure my dehydration. Everyone told me to stand in front of the camera. I don't know why. You don't want to look at me, just listen, it's fine. But I'd been sick for a while, and I would throw up, and I went, oh, I'm dehydrated. So I'd drink a big old glass of water every time I threw up. I knew I was replacing just as much as I was letting go of. Didn't matter. Once your body's rejecting it, it's rejecting it. And
You
I
probably didn't have enough salt. You've already
I
put
was
enough
doing
salt.
electrolytes as well. At some point, if your stomach lining is irritated enough, you're not absorbing water anyway. And so intravenous, even if you don't have like a lactated ringer or just an IV bag of water, you can actually, it works with livestock, you can inject water subcutaneously, not intramuscularly, but subcutaneously, and your body will absorb it. Enemas also you can absorb a significant amount of water through what's the last portion of your digestive tract? Your colon, directly through your colon. You can absorb salt water through your colon, and your colon will sort out the salt through an enema. So if you don't have an IV, there are ways.
Okay. Heat exhaustion. So I struggled to remember the difference between heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
Exhaustion is not nearly as bad as stroke.
Right, yep, to be exhausted, that's exactly what I told myself. So we're talking about just being kind of dehydrated and hot. So well, we'll just go on, okay? Usually this is like you've been in the parade for the 4th of July or whatever, and you're just totally beat at the end. You feel lightheaded, and you may be kind of sweaty, but just cool and clammy, or your heartbeat's racing, and you're beat. Okay, this changes by itself. I know if I didn't miss anything. Okay, so how to take care of it: get cooled off, get drinks, take a break, sit under a tree, Why do you think raising legs can help them feel better?
Bring the blood flow back to the core and the head.
Yep,
Treat for shock.
yep. So you're getting what blood there is into more of the vital areas, okay? Any comments, questions? This is 4th of July parade type stuff, not Sahara Desert lost type.
Soccer tournaments in St. George.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, heat stroke is when the body temperature goes above 105, okay? That's like you were saying, that's like spa hot tub temperatures. You at that point you are lacking enough fluid to sweat anymore, and your body can't cool itself off anymore. Okay, so this becomes life-threatening. A lot of times the skin will be dry, and it says hot sweaty, but hot sweaty is just before it gets to the not sweaty, okay? And the more dry their skin is, the more likely it is that they are hitting the stroke side instead of the exhaustion side. The brain can't function with a temperature that high very well. You become confused and I don't know, I shouldn't say stupid, but your thinking is no longer good anymore. And then the vomiting kicks in. Seizures is because of problems with the brain. The brain goes into spasms when it is overheated. So anyway, so cooling people, you can do what you can't do to heat people. Like you can dump them in a swimming pool, you can spray them with a hose, you can cool them off with water, where it's not a good idea to do that when it's a hypothermia problem. The opposite when it's hyperthermia. So get the person to a cool place, or I mean almost anywhere. If you have water, you can cool people off, even if it's hot water. Once you put it on them, or dip their clothes in it or whatever, and put on a wet shirt or whatever, the evaporation will help cool them down. Any questions, comments, experiences?
I don't think we've ever, anyone.
So, yeah, 2 years ago, they had the LDS Church had a thing up at the university, something of light or something, I don't know. Anyways, right after they put the new turf in, it's in the middle of summer. It was a really hot day, and they had probably, I can't even remember. I'm going to say they had 50 people collapsing from heat injury. An easy 50 people collapsing. Wow. Heat injuries. They set up some tents and put misters up there and was spraying water. It was pretty involved. It was so hot inside the stadium, and on top of that new turf, that there was just people they were just dropping everywhere. And I can't remember how many they took to the hospital, but they treated dozens and dozens there under some tents that they had set up. So,
that's crazy.
I just had something that just popped into my head that I had kind of forgot about. Hydration is not a super fast process. I remember the first time someone told me to start hydrating 3 days before an event, and I thought they were nuts, but it takes a while, and so prevention is always best. That's not this conversation. We're working on fixing it, learning to fix it, but it's worth noting that if you're going out somewhere, you can pack way more water in your body than I'm willing to lug around on my back. So it's worth hydrating up days before.
And while we're talking about that, in winter, you actually need more hydration than you do in the summer because your body core is trying to keep warm, and so you're spewing out more in your breath. And we can see your breath. When we went winter camping up to the sinks, it was mandatory. If we had not drunk a gallon of water in 24-hour period, we were not allowed to come. And that was beforehand. Gallon of water. I've never done that in my life. Drink a gallon of water in 24 hours. I thought I was going to be sick. And then a gallon of water while we were there, and in a 24-hour period.
Interesting.
To keep ahead of the game, right? Prevention.
Yep.
Okay, so the symptoms. Headache is another one that with heat stroke. Nausea and vomiting are on both. Your pulse is rapid on either one, but it is usually strong and rapid on a heat stroke and weak with heat exhaustion. And I can't explain that one either. Do you have any?
The way God wanted it.
Okay. I'll have to remember that one because I always like to figure out why.
Could you go back to that one?
Okay, so
Could you go back to that last slide?
yes.
I'd like to see a picture.
It'll be recorded on the website too. So.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so sipping cool water, even putting just a mouthful of water, putting some under your tongue. If every time you swallow it, you throw up, just putting some in your mouth, even just putting it on your body, on the outside, will help you to not be losing any more because you'll be cooling yourself down with other water other than what's inside you. It can be helpful.
I'm always amazed when I hear people have died of heat. And I think, gosh, didn't they have water in their apartment? They couldn't like wet a towel and lay it on
But do they
themselves?
know to do that?
And
Maybe they didn't have water, but maybe they don't know.
just a cool cloth around your neck is amazing to cool you down. Like you can work out in the yard all day if you have like a chill tie. We made those chill ties. If I can keep that wet, I can be outside in the sunshine working hours as long as I can keep that part of my neck cool.
Well, and we used to go to Lake Powell a lot, and when it's 110, 115 degrees, but you can jump in the lake, you can be comfortable all day long as long as you keep getting wet. And if you've got clothes that hold the water for a while, I mean, you can
shiver in 115 degrees if you are wet consistently enough. It's ridiculous.
So, I mean, there's a lot, and water is your main rescue thing for anything heat related is water, either on the outside of you or the inside of you, however you can use it. Even not inside you, like the mist you were saying, or I mean, the reason why climates are more mellow near the coast is because of all that water. The water helps keep things temperate.
Can I throw a super random one out there? Aborigines, when there's no shade, no water, no AC, nothing, and someone's going into heat exhaustion, they'll dig a hole and bury you because even just a couple inches below that layer of sand, the temperature drops.
You dig in the
40
sand at the
degrees.
beach and it's hot at the top and then it's cool.
Yep.
So that's an interesting way to cool
Save your life.
somebody. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to talk about burns. First, second, third. Obviously, sunburn is the 1st degree. 2nd degree usually is blistery. It's through more layers. And then 3rd is full thickness. And here's the diagram to show the epidermis, the dermis, and the third degree includes some fatty tissue and can even include muscle and, I mean, obviously it could be charred deep. So most of the time, I don't even consider first degree to be a problem, but if it's over a large part of your body, you can actually be in shock or get dehydrated or whatever from too much first degree burn. So, and it hurts. It doesn't feel very good. Cooling with ice or just water is helpful. Wet compresses. And they say if it's over 20% of your body, then you should get medical treatment. To me, it's more like, I don't know. I'm not going to say more.
Yep.
Nursing at home.
Yeah, there you go.
Take
I
care
would
of it.
never take somebody
No.
in for medical care with 25% sunburn, but that's just me.
But you're better trained than the average
That is
citizen.
true.
So seek help. It doesn't have to be the hospital.
There you go.
But
There you
get,
go.
But get help.
Yeah, and get them cooled off and whatnot. And just like when you burn yourself on the oven or whatever, if you can cool it by taking the heat out with ice or water or whatever, the heat does not penetrate as deeply, and you can actually slow down or stop and future or the deepening of the burn. I don't know if you've ever cooked bacon like in the oven or whatever, or even in the skillet. When you turn off the heat, it continues to cook, right? So if you've got to turn off the heat or take it out of the oven a little bit before you want it's the temperature, the doneness that you want. The same thing is true with sunburn. If you can take some of the heat away by immersing in cold water, you will cook your skin a little less, okay? Or your dermis or your fat layer or whatever, okay?
Depending on how bad the sunburn is, I'd be pretty careful about immersion in very cold water, because you can go shock really fast with not a very bad sunburn.
Right. Now I would do cold compresses.
Some of the
like just a
scouts
wet
at Camp Hunt would be super sunburned and jump in the lake and go a little shocky.
Really?
Yeah. And we probably had 40, 50 scouts every week that got heat exhaustion or a sunburn that was bad enough that they went home. It was ridiculous.
Okay, so second degree burns are most often caused by boiling water. Usually it blisters.
Steam burns.
Steam is, yes, and steam is even hotter and easier to get it spread around. They say don't pop the blisters. The reason for that, the reason for that is because your skin is a nice barrier. It keeps infection out. So if you do pop a blister, either accidentally or on purpose, you're more likely to get an infection. So if you decide to pop it, be careful how you do it, and use antibiotic and whatnot to try to keep bacteria out. Obviously, cover loosely is going to be much more comfortable than a tight dressing. It helps to have some air circulation and for it to be able to breathe and cool itself. If in these areas that are shown in red, I'll get out of the way, if you have large areas of second degree burns to the hands, the genitals, the feet, or the head, it is a lot more likely to be an emergency. The reason with it being anywhere on the face is swelling. And I'm going to show you some pictures later of what it can be like when you're starting to get swelling in the face. And you'll know when you see those pictures how you should not let it go, because they can have their airway close off very quickly. So medical care from chemicals, explosions, or electricity, those are different than burns from other sources. Especially chemicals can continue to burn. And so a lot of times you need to get the chemical off.
Communicating that to the hospital is very important. You don't want a simple 2nd-degree burn that the hospital mistakes for a chemical burn, and they debride and scrub the wound because they think it's a chemical burn.
That when they
Dakota.
take crack seal off, people
Yeah.
rip the skin off.
Scrub it.
Okay, and obviously burns to very old or very young they're just more vulnerable. They're not as able to withstand as much. Okay, 3rd-degree burns. The main difference here is no ointments. Ointments do tend to hold heat in. And I think that's part of why. Also, it's so deep that you're just, I don't know, you're burned up. I don't know what else to say. It's definitely a 911 situation, and you need medical care. You totally strip the body of any immune system, or not immune system, barrier to infection. Okay, now we're going to talk. Any more questions, comments about burns?
3rd-degree burns have burned past the nerves,
Yeah,
and it's
there's
not painful. There's
There's
no
no
pain.
pain with
It's
degree
the pain
burns.
is the 2nd degrees and the 1st degrees around the 3rd-degree.
Well, you know what? You do have receptors that sense pain deeper inside you, but nothing like you have on the skin. And when I was in an anatomy class, we drew a grid on our arm, and then while someone wasn't looking, you would touch each spot in the grid with something cold, something hot, something pokey, something, I can't remember what else. And only some places sense hot, only some sense cold, and only some sense
Scratchy or
pain or whatever. And it's the majority right on the surface. So once that is gone, those nerves are not going to have those sensors out there to recognize the pain and to send the pain message to the brain. Okay. All right. So we're not going to go into CPR, but you have to have breathing and you have to have pumping. Okay. And both of those is to get oxygen to the brain and to the vital organs, but the brain first and foremost. We talked a little bit about on the first session about putting your ear near their mouth to feel for breathing, and while you're at it, looking across their chest to see if their chest is raising and lowering, and you can also hear. Okay. If they aren't breathing, or their heart's not pumping, start chest compressions immediately. If you don't know how to do it, do it anyway. Or just go like this. Just hit them on the chest. Did I say it? Okay, I don't want to repeat myself. So yeah, get the heart going. We're not going to do this. So you quit only when you can't continue, or if someone else can take over for you. This is a new thing, compression only CPR.
I haven't learned enough about it to have an
Well,
opinion.
so your lungs have a negative pressure, so they always want to suck some air in. And when you do compressions, you'll push air out.
And then it
and
automatically
then they'll fill
refills.
some.
Yeah,
The other thing is when you take in a breath of air, it's something like 21% oxygen, and when you exhale 17% oxygen. So there's a lot of oxygen in your lungs that's not being used, but if you compress it and you flow blood through the alveoli in your lungs, then they will absorb that oxygen that's still in there. And like I say, then you have that negative pressure and it pulls air back in.
So you're moving the air that's in there around and getting it in contact with the alveoli.
Yeah, but also as you do compressions, you're compressing down the rib cage, which is pushing some of the air out, and then it's bringing some
it'll
fresh
suck
air
it back in.
I just upped my CPR license, my card, and Angie McMurray was who I took the class from, and she said they were finding that once you do so many compressions and then you stop and do so many breaths, if you had circulation going, you stopped it. And to just give them a little bit of breath to start compressions again, and you just keep the compressions going. That's what you're wanting, because the air is going to take care of itself.
I'll be darned.
hopefully.
Wow.
If you have two people, it would be good
Even
for
better.
one to
Even
be
better.
throwing in a breath.
That kind of reminds me, like, in the olden days when I used to teach it to senior life-saving students, that we would pull, we'd put them, push and then pull, which would be the intake. So I'm surprised they don't teach it now. They don't.
Okay, so pretty much covered that. Okay, if somebody's unconscious and vomiting, turn them on their side so they don't inhale,
Left side is the recovery side.
but either side
Either side.
works.
Yeah.
You're just trying to make, it's downhill. Okay,
So you don't have to put your mouth in there and let that finger bit off.
Or aspirate.
okay, heart attack comes from blockage of an artery of the heart. So if this little black spot is the clot, then over time, the area that, well, not over time, the area that is affected is much larger than where the clot is, because everything after that, everything downhill basically doesn't
So
get.
One thing that was surprised me when I first learned it is your heart, it's full of blood, but it doesn't get blood from that. It gets blood from vessels just like the rest of your
Yep.
body.
Yes,
It's a muscle and it gets blood from vessels, not from what blood
Right.
inside of it. So,
right. So the
that's
blood that goes through the heart and is pumped is a totally different, not a different system, but that blood is not the blood that feeds the heart. The heart has its own circulatory system with little capillaries and stuff that feed it. Okay. Warning signs of a heart attack. I shouldn't have shown you, but oh well. So have you ever known someone?
I think she had a question.
Bailey, you have a question?
So, when you and my brothers went to the doctor's office to get a checkup, the doctor told me about it, but I didn't understand. So is when there's that thing that's blocking the cells from getting through, is that from eating too much, or can it be from other reasons?
Plaque buildup in vessels.
Oh.
That's what she's asking about.
You know, it can be from what you eat, but some people just have a genetic tendency towards it. And plaque just basically makes the blood vessels get smaller and smaller until something gets stuck, and then it blocks up and you get a clot. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, have you ever known somebody or been around somebody when they started to have a heart attack or were expecting one?
My anxiety attack was like a heart attack. I have a lot of the symptoms.
Oh, really?
Because when I got into the emergency room, they gave me the pill under my tongue, nitroglycerin,
Yeah.
because I had so many of the symptoms
Uh-huh.
of a heart attack.
Right. Tightness in the
Oh.
chest and stuff like that.
Yeah, level 9 pain, radiating down my arms, shortness of breath, felt like I was being sat on by an elephant, and just, I'm dying.
Hmm.
And that,
That's a lot of panic.
yeah, panic, totally, yeah. And the nitroglycerin just calmed me right down too. I don't know, they were like,
Can you share your experience?
Well, so that was actually the first time I ever worked on an ambulance. I was in Nevada. I went on a call. I'd been out, been interviewed by him. Got there for my first shift. We were down at the ambulance, going through the ambulance, get a call. Go to this guy who's supposed to be on high blood pressure medication and something else for heart disease. But it was his birthday, so he spent all his money on cocaine, pot, and whiskey.
Oh, no.
And they go, okay, do his blood pressure. I did his blood pressure. It was like 180. No, I think it was 220 over 180. And then he just looked at me. He just sitting there, and I'm saying like, something's wrong. My coach took the stethoscope, started doing the blood pressure, and the guy looked at me, and his eyes went about that big around, and he was dead.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Happy birthday.
yeah. So,
Okay, well, that's not a good way to take care of your heart and health.
but that's the way they do it out in some of those casino towns.
Yeah.
the Miami towns.
Yep. Okay, so we talked about, and Roseanne mentioned the symptoms, and they're not always, like she said, it's not always a heart attack. But honestly, a panic attack is in some ways similar. You're just squeezing your heart so hard that you're probably inhibiting the blood flow to it by your own stress.
But usually if you have a panic attack, a lot of people start to have that carpal
Tingly.
carpal, what do they call it? Carpal pedal syndrome, where their fingers will start to go like this, and sometimes their toes will even start to kind of curl. But it's from the hyperventilation
Yeah.
and the stress. But
So when you hyperventilate, it changes your pH, and that's why you start to get tingly and whatnot. And if you can just like breathe into a bag or something, or if you can control your breathing and just slow it down, then those symptoms fade pretty quick.
So you said it changes the pH. Does it, when you're having those anxiety and heart attack problems, does it make it more acid or more alkaline?
I don't remember,
probably more acid. Acid is bad.
but either way is bad.
you're over oxygenating, and so I think it's you're going basic.
Okay.
You're going too basic because your body runs at a slightly acidic level. So when you breathe, it tips back and forth, kind of like teeter-totter, but I think it stays at the acidic side, and if you overcompensate, it goes to the basic side, the base side. So that's
And I
too
know
many
if you
years.
keep your body in an alkaline state, you don't develop plaque on your teeth.
You're right. Respiratory alkalosis. Alkalosis.
Okay, so if you're around somebody who's showing signs of a heart attack, it is not uncommon for them to say, I'm fine. Don't call 911. Don't get me help.
That's when you call it.
I'm fine.
Okay? It's very, they could, like this guy, they could be dead like that. So they don't have to accept treatment, but you can still call. And when the paramedics get there, they can refuse treatment, but at least they're there if the guy changes his mind or the woman or whoever changes their mind before they're dead, okay? All right, strokes is when you get a brain bleed,
Okay, wait, I've
basically.
got a question on that. Since when the blood supply to the brain is interrupted, the brain cells die. Okay, they die. Then when blood comes back in, can they, you know how the body heals itself? Can the brain heal itself?
Regenerate.
It can regenerate, but the dead cells do not come back to life.
So they would slough off, but as the cells multiply, they could replace those.
I don't believe so.
Not the brain.
Not the brain.
Generally, usually you don't get new brain cells, but your body can often switch and use different areas of the brain to accomplish the same thing. So,
Relearn.
yes. So
There-
depending on what area of the brain it is, and usually it can be rerouted with enough time and enough practice, and as long as it's a very small area that you've got enough capacity left.
As a general rule, I've read some super interesting articles on individuals that lost massive, lost function in massive portions, and they're just fascinated by how much making up
They
a
can do.
small portion can do.
Yeah, your brain has so much capacity that you don't even need or use, that in general, other areas can take over for
Take up the
whatever.
slack.
Take up the slack. But like, for example, I mean, this is stroke, so it's a small area, but if you like asphyxia or something, lack of oxygen, the whole brain is affected all at once. So that is worse in many ways. Okay, so warning signs or this really, they call it warning signs, but to me, a warning is something that comes before the problem. Like, so you could make it not happen. This is not a sign that you're going to know before the stroke. It's how you're going to recognize the stroke, okay? Because it's already happened. Otherwise, there's not going to be any symptoms for you to see. So when Bentley had his wisdom teeth out, he got an infection and it went up into his brain. And one morning he came to me and he just said, my head is going to explode. Like, I can't stand this anymore. And my thought was, okay, well, something's going wrong in his head. And so I had him like take a hold of my hands and squeeze them. And I had a much stronger grip than the other. You can also have people like smile. If their smile's crooked or stick their tongue out, the tongue will go to one side or the other if they're being affected on one side. Their eyes, one eye will start to droop. Their gait will change. They'll be limpy because one side is affected. Okay. And almost always with a stroke, it'll be one side at a time. Okay. Dizziness, we missed that one. Okay, so basically, Bentley, even though he didn't have a stroke, having a pus pocket is very similar, putting pressure on a certain area of the brain.
Reduced blood flow in areas of the brain and caused bruising and started paralysis on half.
Right, and so this could be stroke or an infection or even a concussion or, some kind of an injury. Okay, any other thing on stroke? Anyone who wants to talk about? I guess we didn't talk, what do you do about it? Go ahead, what's your question?
So after my sister got the COVID shot, she got a stroke and she stalled. Okay, nobody recognized the symptoms. Nobody put it together. So when she finally went in and they checked her, she'd already had the stroke. If she would have gone in right away, there's a chance they would have given her that shot that
Dissolves the clot.
But in her case, it's a good thing they didn't, because her stroke was on the right side. So you only want that shot if your stroke is on the left side.
Why?
So that's what we learned out of that one.
That doesn't make sense to me.
What's the difference of the left side or the right side for the shot?
I don't know.
I can't remember. They said it was like a magic 10 minutes or something like that.
It's a magic hour.
Yeah, you've got about an hour. And it's actually a little longer than that where it will still do some good, but the sooner the better. Because basically you're choking to death a section of your brain. And if you can get it oxygenated and fed again, you're going to have less
Well,
damage.
now this is at the Logan where she was told this, so nobody here has ever heard that before but me then.
I've never heard that. So, I don't know. Okay, choking. So if people can talk or cough or whatever, that means there's still air going in and out. It may not be great, but usually people can get hack their own choking thing out better than someone else can help them. Okay? So, but when it's very pinched off and like just really high pitched or whatever, you know that they're barely maybe leaking some air past whatever's in their throat. So what do you do about it? This is the sign. This is how you show people, help, I'm choking. And then how do you help somebody when you know they're choking?
Slap them on the back.
Yep, that's part of it.
And then the Heimlich, that's really bad.
And Heimlich, okay. And I don't know why they don't call it a Heimlich anymore, but
It was somebody's name. The person who developed that, their last name was Heimlich.
yeah, but I don't know why they're not using that.
His
Terminology
great
anymore.
grandpa owned slaves, so they can't call it the Heimlich anymore.
Something like that.
I'll edit
So-
that part out.
Anyway, you keep doing what you can until either they start to breathe or they pass out. And once they're on the floor or whatever, unconscious, then you start CPR. And hopefully the chest compressions will pop whatever it is out. But there's not much you can do if you can't get that, whatever is in their out.
If they don't call it Heimlich.
Put arms around the victim's waist, make it this.
First
Tummy
and
Thrust.
thrust, or I think it's a tummy thrust or a.
I don't know. Heimlich says it all in just like one word. So I'm going to still use the Heimlich. Whoops. Okay. All right. Anaphylactic shock. What is that?
Allergic reactions, I don't know,
Yes.
bee stings, just whatever your body does in
Okay. So a lot of times the swelling will be generally where the bee sting or whatever is, or if it's like something that they ingested, it can be all in their inner, like their stomach and their airway and their nose and their mouth, wherever, like peanuts. And look at this woman. If that's going on in her throat, there is no way that
Are she still standing and breathing?
I don't know. And I mean, you look at any of these people and you can see why it could be very difficult or impossible to breathe. So besides the fact that your breathing can be shut down, your blood vessels also dilate. So basically you're putting yourself into shock as a reaction to whatever the allergen is. The most common allergens are the peanuts, shellfish, stings, and do we have fire ants?
I don't think
I don't think so. I think those are more in the southeast.
Okay, I didn't think so. Here, look at the tongue. Again, your
wouldn't want
tongue
that
could
either.
choke you to death if in a situation like that. And they generally sometimes get the hives all over there. Generally starts on the chest and then spreads to the extremities. So if you've got somebody that might be having an allergic reaction, my grandkids, I just pull up the shirt, take a look, because it starts for some reason on the chest. Okay, this is a EpiPen. You can watch a video how to do it, how to use it. You just pop off the orange cap and hit them with it right through their pant leg or whatever. Generally in the leg. You want it into a big muscle, but
and
if the
then take
leg's
them
not.
immediately to the hospital anyway.
Yep. Because all this does is cause like a panic reaction, so that they will breathe faster, heartbeat harder, so they'll stay alive until you can get them to medical care. But it doesn't last long, and it's not a cure-all. It doesn't stop the reaction. Okay, it slows it down.
And they are only good for 6 months.
Are they really?
They really have a really
Expired.
short shelf
And are they
life,
really no good after that?
and they are really expensive. I've got kids that are allergic to bees and they have to carry EpiPens.
Okay, a lot of medications, they give them expiration dates, but they really are still good after that. If you have an old expired one
Use it
and it's
anyway.
life and death, you use it.
Yep.
Okay.
Benadryl for lesser
Right.
things than an EpiPen is another thing that they do first. They try Benadryl.
Okay, so this, I just threw these pictures in so you could see and get a visual to give you, even to give yourself a shot with the EpiPen. Just, and you have to hold it for like 5 seconds, but it shoots itself. It injects the medication itself after you pound it. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about asthma, and here's symptoms. One of the symptoms that I don't think a lot of people are real aware of is what they call retractions, especially in babies when they're like, they're sucking their tummy in and their ribs are showing. They can be doing nothing else, and I'm making noises when I'm doing it, but sometimes they are not making any noise or looking in any other way like they're having problems breathing. But if you look at their belly and they're sucking it in order to get the air in, they're working too hard and they can exhaust themselves and die from exhaustion. Not everybody gets blue lips or blue fingers and toes from, oh, they touched. Are we okay? Oh, yep. Okay, so that's a sign of lack of oxygen, and it's called cyanosis when people are blue. If they have a breathing treatment thing, have them take it. Sit down, relax. Anything you can do to make them use less air, okay, so that the demand is less. When I was at BYU studying nursing, in one of my physiology labs, they had us hook ourselves to a monitor that monitored and did our oxygen consumption, okay, or breathing, I guess really is what it was. And so we would sit there and not wiggle or do anything for like 10 minutes so we kind of get to a resting rate. And then our teammates would do things to us to see what increased the oxygen consumption. And if they just put something in front of us to read and you didn't wiggle anything, your eyes could read it and it made your brain start to work, it increased the oxygen consumption. Then you put a math problem in front of them, so they had to do math, and that uses more oxygen than reading, at least for most people. Depends, I guess, on whether you're a mathematician or not. And anyway, we went through and just to see what it took to, how much you breathe harder when you think, believe it or not. So anything you can do to make it so that an asthma person doesn't need as much oxygen, which means like turning down the lights, lowering the stress, not moving the body, anything like that that's going to consume oxygen while they are getting the treatment that they need or getting the 911 help or whatever.
Can I take a second to ask him a question? And
Yes.
maybe you've heard of this too. Have you ever heard of people with a child holding them somewhat close and focusing on their own breathing, and the sympathetic whatever of the child will start to they'll automatically try to match the breathing.
The
Oh,
child will.
The child will start to try to match the adult. And
The
then-
child has asthma.
So, yeah, if they're having an asthma attack, supposedly.
I've never heard that. I've seen like in basic trauma situation, if a child is held by a trusted
Maybe
person,
that's it.
and that person can control themselves, that the child will
Just
calm
mere
down.
emotion and be calm.
So oftentimes you've seen one parent who's able to handle the situation, and they can calm the child down. The other parent comes in and just the look of them, the child can see their stress, and it elevates the child's stress. So I imagine.
Same result, so
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, and then this one where it says take off pack, that basically is like if you're hiking or whatever. This I think was from a scouting type demonstration. Anything to reduce the burden, to whatever it is. And like I said, even thinking uses more oxygen. So sit down, rest, lay down, calm down.
A panic attack can also look like asthma kind of thing. It can constrict your breathing.
Yeah.
Like they say that your airway is like the size of a coffee straw. You like a squeak noise.
Yeah.
Trying to breathe in and out of that constriction.
Right.
Is there, as far as asthma non-businesses, would peppermint oil help? Because I know whenever I'm having a hard time breathing.
I think peppermint is one of the ones that is medically proven to have respiratory benefits. There's a couple others like eucalyptus and a couple others. There are, what is it called when it's not a hypothesis anymore, it's empirical. There is what is considered to be empirical data on some essential oils, others not quite as much.
So you're saying yes?
Yes, some of them are on that list. I can't remember which ones.
Okay. Because I know if I'm ever having trouble breathing, a little bit of peppermint on my lip, and all of a sudden it's like,
More
Breathe easy.
oxygen.
But
Like when you're like scared because you can't get enough breath. Is that what you're
for
talking about?
anything, I
Or
mean,
just like you're
yeah,
wheezing, you have a bad cold.
usually when I'm sick, but whatever. I mean,
Well, and think about putting peppermint in your hot chocolate at Christmas time too. You're more jovial, more oxygen. That's your
Yep.
Okay, poisonings. So generally follow either the directions on the container or get some medical help. Okay. Obviously you need to make it so that you get less of it, like get away from, if it's a gas or something, move away from it. If a kid or somebody's drinking it, quit drinking it, quit swallowing it, quit rubbing it on you or whatever. But also save, if they throw up, save the vomit. okay? It's really helpful to see what's in it, okay? We have dogs that ate those mouse decon, and to take to figure out how much they actually ate was really helpful. And they can test it in the hospital to figure out how to treat if you don't know what they drank or ate or got into.
Terry, I need to take a picture of that one, sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's not gonna let me, sorry.
Well, this will be available in
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah.
Oh, uh-oh, you touched something, Mom. Oh, you're good.
Okay, this is actually my last slide. Prevention is better than treatment. So go prepared, and you guys don't need to be told any of the rest of this. Take water with you. Don't go alone. I mean, you guys are the most prepared people probably in the whole wide world, and most problems will never happen to you if you are prepared. Although there's always plenty of things that can go wrong. So, any questions, comments, stories?
Good job.
Yeah, good job.
Well, so back to dehydration and